Good morning, and welcome to Good Morning Tobago right here on Tobago Updates, guys. You know, when you see me sitting here, we're about to have those conversations to get your day started. Have those conversations that you want to have and ask those questions that you want to know. And as we begin this morning, I want to start off with your news in 90 seconds. And so, following threats by media houses to boycott the 95th hosting of the Buku Goat and Crab Race, over a $1,500 accreditation fee for news coverage, the decision was rescinded. However, all footage must be credited as being courtesy of the Buku Village Council. At a meeting on Wednesday night, the media was told that news crews would not be able to operate freely without paying an accreditation fee. A release was issued late last night informing the media that they will no longer have to pay for news coverage. Meanwhile, videographers producing content are still required to pay $6,500, while photographers must pay $1,500. Village Council Vice President Winston Pereira said that the goat and crab race are copyrighted and following them and allowing them to control who gets to publicize content from the goat and crab races. Additionally, the THA is seeking funding for a coastal erosion management project at the Pigeon Point Heritage Park. According to the manager of the engineering unit at the Division of Infrastructure, Quarries and Urban Development, Mr. Atiba Martin, the THA is negotiating with the Development Bank of Latin America for a loan. A recent study at the Pigeon Point revealed that the previous coastal protection works were poor and extensive rehabilitation works are needed. However, the work would be costly and the THA would need access to funding outside of its annual budgetary allocation. And finally, the administration of the University of the West Indies St. Augustine campus says that it is making every effort to reduce the impact of the West Indies group of university teachers' protests action on students. University teachers refuse to sign examination papers and upload coursework marks after their wage negotiations stalled. The UE Student Guild stated that while they understand the frustration felt by teachers, they do not support the teachers' actions, especially after the Operation Blackout, where some teachers refused to teach. And that was your news in 90 seconds. Guys, this morning we're going to start off with a conversation that has been very prominent in the space, especially after we saw Tuesday night that this THA administration has begun efforts into launching a new political party led by Fali Chavez Augustin as currently the interim, I believe, political leader. Now, we're going to have a lot more information and some clarity on exactly what happened on Tuesday evening at the Cultural Complex, as I am being joined this morning by Dr. Faith B.Yisrael, who is the area representative for Belgarden Glamorgan. Good morning, Dr. Faith.
Hi. Good morning, Shalal. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on. But on Tuesday evening, you guys embarked on a journey to invite supporters to come out for what was marketed as a party launch. Now, there's been a lot of misconceptions in the space, especially coming out of the media not being allowed to enter into the building at first, but then being allowed to cover a portion of the session. This would have contributed to a lot of confusion regarding whether or not it indeed was a party launch or was it an internal executive meeting, which is the prelude to a party launch. So again, thank you for coming, and that's where we're going to start off the conversation this morning.
Certainly. Several things happened. So what happened on Tuesday really is a continuation of a conversation that started with our supporters. And when I say a continuation of the conversation, several supporters following, let's not pretend it's not happening. We know what happened last year. People like me were basically kicked out of a certain political organization. We tried our best to continue functioning. After a while, we resigned officially from that organization. And we recognized coming into this year that our supporters were really busily trying to let us telling us that we need to get our act together. We need to figure out what to do. We need to pull things together somehow. Of course, Trinidad and Tobago is very familiar with party politics. That is how we go into elections as party kind of thing. Of course, the Tobago House of Assembly does not recognize the party as relates to who is elected, and after you're elected, you're sworn in as an individual to represent your people. So that allowed us to continue working. But a group of supporters have actually been working for some time now, doing a lot of the background work, pulling together a draft constitution, looking at different names. People were throwing names left, right, and center, and all of this was actually happening before Tuesday. On a Tuesday that we would bring our supporters together to allow them to be a part of the conversation. And when I say our supporters, that even includes those of people like me who are assemblymen, because we were not really involved in that initial part of the conversation that the supporters were leading. If I'm not mistaken, the flyer that went out actually said a preparation to launch. So that is what we are doing. We are preparing to launch this political organization. Um, Let me also address the issue with the media. I know that media people, this is exciting stuff. Politics is exciting. We are used to this being a media spectacle and that kind of thing. But we wanted an opportunity for our supporters to be able to honestly speak to us, to be able to tell us how they truly feel about what has happened and the direction that we are going in terms of creating this new organization. So we wanted to allow them the ability to be free with their speech, to not be encumbered. But we also know that from past experience that sometimes media personalities run with the most salacious thing. That is what media is. If it's not exciting, if it's not headline-ish, then it will not be carried. So we wanted to ensure that what happens in the room is not misrepresented, for example, in the media space. And let me give an example. The executive has been going to these community sessions, these town hall meetings, and so on. And one of the last ones that we had was in Roxborough. We were there for probably 3 hours discussing things with the population. It was a very fruitful discussion. But when you look at the media reporting of that, it make it look like it's only a host of the bacchanalish people that come out from Roxborough that were part of the conversation, when in fact that did not truly represent what was happening. And we wanted to protect our supporters from that kind of misrepresentation. We wanted to allow them to speak freely and to say what they needed to say without worrying that, you know what, they would become a meme or they would become a headline, when in fact the conversation in the room is a more balanced one, and so forth. And that is exactly what happened on Tuesday. I am so excited about where we are and where we are going, and it's just a matter of time before this whole thing pulls itself together the way we would like our members. So now we have members. Now that's the other thing I want to highlight. Coming out of the other organization, we did not have, for example, a list of members to call to an internal meeting. You know what I mean? That is what membership is for. But we don't have a list of members to call to an internal meeting. So when we sent out the public notice, it was for all of Tobago. Anybody who supports us, anybody who agrees with our political philosophy, to be a part of the conversation. In that room, we actually saw people who if I were to send out an invitation, I would not have invited them because they were, for example, candidates going up against us in the last election. That's one of the reasons we sent out a public call, because we needed people to allow themselves to be a part of the conversation without us dictating who should come and who does not come.
Okay, and Dr. Faye, with the restrictions that you guys had placed on the media because you wanted to control what went out there afterwards, are you satisfied, or do you think that you guys met your goal or the objective of what you were trying to do by allowing those restrictions?
Certainly, because we had people who came in and they were very, very clear about how they felt. We had people who were very, very supportive. We had people who said that they were disappointed in how the whole thing happened last year and all of that. And we wanted to allow our supporters to be able to voice their concerns, but more importantly, to be part and parcel of this entire process of developing this political organization from the ground up. And that is what they were able to do at that meeting.
That the structure of the meeting allowed for you guys to have enough feedback from your supporters?
So I think it did. I am sure if we allowed it to go on, it will go on and on and on and on and on until probably all now we would have still been there talking. But that is why, for example, after a while, our interim political leader, Farley Chavez Augustine, basically said and asked the room, because again, this is a collaboration, ask the room, given that we have so many suggestions for names, so many suggestions for symbols, so many suggestions for color and all of those things, we are taking all of those suggestions. I don't know, there were people who were there taking notes and so forth, and they were even going up on the screen as people were talking. Now that we have all of these suggestions, the room actually picked a 5 member, I think, set of people who were in the room. The room said, we want this person and that person and that person to come together. We have given them a 2 week time period to work out, given what political organizations have already registered with EBC. So that means they have to look at what names were already registered, what symbols are already registered, what colors already registered with EBC, because you can't have duplications of those things. And based on everything that everybody said there, everything that we recorded, this 5 member team is now to come together and come up with no more than five options for name, symbol, color, and that thing. So when we come back to a meeting on the 17th of April, we can then vote for those things. Again, this was given all of the suggestions that came in. We had to agree that we had to continue the conversation, because I think that is the best way to go, given that there are rules about it, given that we have to check what ABC has and that kind of thing.
Okay, and so with the misunderstanding of exactly what was going to happen on Tuesday in regards to it actually being a party launch or a preparation for a party launch, what type of changes are you guys looking forward to making in the future to ensure clarity across the board with the type of approach that you're taking to this new political party?
So I think having conversations like these is what would help, to have people understand exactly what we are doing. Now, all of this is new. Listen, as I said, as a secretary for health, wellness, and social protection, now deputy chief secretary, the first year it was my OJT year. We are all learning as we go along, and that is also happening as we build this political organization. This may be the first time in the history of Trinidad and Tobago, possibly even the history of the entire region, where a political organization is being built like this from the ground up. So, of course, we need to be able to communicate a little better. We will make mistakes, of course. That is not an issue. I am one of the first people who will admit if a mistake is made or a misunderstanding is made. We will continue having conversations about the process so that we are all on the same page, and we go forward from there. I think that the media, members of the media, were just so excited about this whole thing, given all of the bacchanal to it, because to be honest, all your media people like the bacchanal. Um, Given that part of it, there was an excitement surrounding it, which is fine. That is not an issue at all. And even I, as I was walking into the complex, I was joking with the members of the media, indicating that, yeah, we all really like this bacchanal thing, but that is fine. We are all doing this together. We want to ensure, though, that those who support us are the ones who are driving this exercise, and Tuesday showed that they are the ones who are driving this exercise. It also showed that we actually have, in my mind, I let me be honest, I when I saw the number of people who came, because if you realize from those of us who were there, we had standing room only. All of the seats were filled. We even had to call Shaw Park and let them bring up some more chairs to put in a back room where people were just sitting and they couldn't even see what was going on. They just had to hear what was going on. So I was actually surprised at the number of people who actually came out. But that shows that, you know what, Tobagonians are excited about this process, and they want to be a part of building something that is really Tobago based, Tobago focused, where they can say they were really a part of it.
Right. And outside of the turnout that seemed to be a bit too big for the room that you guys had, what were some of the success indicators for you guys? And do you deem that event as having been a success?
Yeah, I think it was. tremendous success, a tremendous success. So, what are some of the indicators? So, yes, the actual number of people is one. The fact that people came with ideas, so they came with names, they came with suggestions, they came with rationale for why we want this symbol or why we want these words together, and they were able to have that conversation freely. They were able to give those suggestions freely. There were some things that I had not even thought about, but that come from the came from the crowd. We had a mix of all, so we some of the stalwarts, some of the people who are my heroes when it comes to politics, Tobago politics. When I see Sister Pam roll up, I say, well, yes, we're doing something go okay, because Sister Pam leaves she house and come up and all of those things. So those are those are the kinds of interactions that we saw that to me was heartwarming. So we had the old, we had the new, we had the people who were involved in politics. One of the young men from I think the Roxborough Argyle area came with their blowhorn, and it took me right back to when we were campaigning and that kind of thing. So those are some of the things that I think are so critical to what we want to do, and the fact that we were able to come out of it having all of us, at least most of us, I don't think I heard anybody left it feeling negatively or feeling like they were not a part of the process. To me, all of those are success indicators.
And I have to be the devil's advocate here and add, like, what about the conversation that is happening where, when we look at the fact that we had persons like Pamela Nicholson coming out, and we have Christine Moore drafting the Constitution, and a number of other persons who have been connected to a number of other opposition party, there is the conversation where persons are saying, well, this is the same old opposition with a new name and a new symbol and a new color, but it's really the same old people who have been opposing the PNM for as long as the PNM has been in existence, because we see a lot of familiar opposition faces in the room. So tell us exactly why this one is different. Um,
So, I think those on the other side, particularly those on the PNM, try to use this is the same set of people. But the fact that the same set of people are still actively fighting against you, and the fact that the same set of people absolutely refuse to join you, says something about you and your party. When we look at the number of people who vote in elections, for example, the number of people who vote for the PNM versus the number of people who have been voting for parties like ours, those who oppose the PNM, you realize that the vast majority of people on the island, at least, let me speak about Tobago, actually don't support PNM's mandate. So the fact that we have those individuals who are still supporting and who are still rallying around us is telling us that, you know what, we're going in the right direction, because you know what, that other red party, that other PNM party, they are not doing what Tobago wants. They are not doing what Tobagonians need. They spent the last 21 years or so not developing Tobago. And the fact that we have all of these stalwarts who still want to be a part and who are still teaching us, because that is what they're doing. I look at those individuals and they're teaching us about the pitfalls that they fell into before and so forth, so that we would learn from them. I see that as a positive thing. I really don't know that the PNM should be boasting that it's the same old people, because it means that you have not grown supporters. The people who are supposed to be gravitating towards you as PNM not doing it, and they are looking for any other option but you, which says something about your political party and your philosophy and what you have done against the people of Tobago. And I am very proud to be a part of an organization that is pulling all of these different people together to be a part of developing this lovely island.
and seeing that this new political party that is being formed, it has a number of the PDP executive members behind it. We saw Natasha Seconds, who was the previous secretary under the PDP administration. What about the comments that this is just the PDP B team? How do you respond to that?
But there's really no reason to even respond to that. There is no reason to respond to that. Those of us who are on the ground, those of us who were part of the PDP, and to be honest, I was a proud member of the PDP, and it still pains me. I actually said on Tuesday to somebody who I was sitting close to that Tuesday afternoon was probably the first time since all of the bacchanal last year that I actually feel good about Tobago party politics again, because it is still very painful, it is still very hard, it is still very hurtful to think that we were part of building this thing, and then one man just decide that he ain't like how we going, so he got take a bat on the ball and go away. That to me is very unfair. The people of Tobago should not have been a part of that, should not have had to endure that. And it actually says a lot where those who, most if not all, and maybe not all, but the vast majority of people who were on the executive, who were supporters of the PDP, were the ones that are in the room. That says something about that organization. Now, granted, I wish them well. I understand that they will be contesting local government elections and all of that, but that is no longer our business. It is no longer our concern. It is no longer our burden to bear. We are here now, and we are working towards developing a party. And in particular, Farley said it on Tuesday. Even though he is interim political leader, the way we are developing it is so that we never, ever, ever have an opportunity for one man to pick up a party and say it's mine. Go on with it. And that is what I think that lesson is probably one of the biggest lessons we learned from interacting with PDP, that we have to build something that the people are holding on to, that the people are in control of, that the people know that they are the founders and they are the owners, not one man, so that if that one man decide tomorrow he ain't like what going on, he could take it. I think that was a very unfair thing for Tobagonians to go through, and we are insisting that that never happens again.
And Dr. Faye, as we wrap up today, because we don't have as much time to go in as much as we want to on this conversation, what is the next move for this political party? What can we see happening next?
So, as I said before, on the 17th of April, so a little less than 2 weeks now, we come back together to vote on the actual name, to vote on the symbol, to vote on the color. We will then start looking at the draft constitution that was prepared, because in essence, the constitutions for political parties tend to be pretty similar. So, as you mentioned before, Miss Chrislyn Moore was the one who led the team, and it wasn't just her, there was actually a team of them that was pulled together to say, well, this works, this isn't working. We're looking at other political structures, political parties. Let's pull from them. We then look at that to see if it fits what we do, and then we roll out from there. I cannot promise you, for example, when the actual launch of the political party will happen, because all of this may take time. We may come back on the 17th, and everybody there decide, them five that all you come up with and working, so we can't vote on them, nobody like them, and we continue the process. Now, the good thing about us starting at this point is that we still have a little bit of time to do this work. And I think that the members of the Executive Council of the Tobago House of Assembly, because we are not leading this process, for example, this is not going to disrupt our functioning within the Executive Council, within the governance of Tobago. So we can still do that while the other members do what they need to do. And we will be able to really truly build an organization that is worth being a part of.
Thank you so much, Dr. Faith. Thank you again for joining us here in Tobago Updates. And we definitely have to continue this conversation because there's so much more to get into regarding this new party. Guys, if you just joined us, we just had Dr. Faith B.Yisrael as she clarified a number of things regarding the formation of the new political party led by Farley Chavez Augustine.